Where do AI ideas come from? And there's like several places where they can come from. First of all, and most of them are bottom up, right? In employee-led discovery. And what happens is that your workforce identifies repetitive, annoying tasks in their daily jobs and try to fix them. Usually these are low value, less strategic type of ideas. They're attempting to fix their daily bottlenecks, or they're trying to upskill. So they're looking, okay, what can I learn about AI? And there's just a lot of experimentation going on there. Then you have top down, which are the leadership mandates, leadership working with strategy teams or consultants, right, where they launch these high impact, let's say, lighthouse projects. They might look at critical industry use cases, or a future back approach where they envision an AI-driven function or product or services, whatever that might be. And truth to be told, a lot of these leadership mandates can also be very vague as well. And then, of course, you have ideas coming from external inspiration. You see what others are doing, or you're collaborating with partners within your ecosystem on AI projects, or simply get inspiration from industry reports or whatever consultants are advising your organization. So regardless how you're doing it, there's a lot of ideas that companies can have around AI. Now, what do you do? Because you're sitting on dozens, sometimes hundreds, and we've had clients that like, look, we're having 300, 400 ideas, and we don't know which one are worthwhile. And they all look different, right? They come in different size and shapes, different language, different assumptions baked into them. Some could be very broad, some could be narrow, some could be more future-oriented and ambitious, some immediate, abstract or granular. Some of them are more strategic, others are very siloed within a function or a small team. You have high risk versus low risk. You have generic ideas, you have more specific ones. This one I like very much. You have ideas that are problem-driven, that would be ideal, but you also have ideas that are technologically driven, right? Because AI is giving you lots of opportunities right now. So you're starting with the technology. What can I do with it? So they can be all over the place. And organizations need to decide, what do we build? Which way do you go? Now, being that all of these ideas are different, it's like comparing apple to oranges. And you can't compare apple to oranges and tell yourself that I'm making smart, rational decisions. That would be a little bit delusional, I would say. Like, you can't make a right decision. So when ideas are very hard to compare, usually you default to three things. Cognitive fatigue, you just get tired of it and you stop evaluating thoroughly and deeply and just go with whatever is most simple, more convenient, right? Not necessarily the best option. Politics can take over, and when ideas cannot be compared on merit, then they're going to be pushed by whoever has the most authority. So then it's not the idea that wins, but the person with authority that's presenting it. And then finally, what you can do, you can delegate, just let somebody else take care, you do it, you figure it out, even though you know that's not necessarily the best approach. But then in the end, you pick something, however you're doing it, right? And you start building. And it feels like progress, because there's going to be meetings around that AI project, prototypes will get built, and there's going to be some demos, some of them might be spectacular, but then somewhere down the road, you might realize that, hey, whatever it is that we're doing isn't really doable with our data, within our timeline, our tech stack, our budget. Also, it doesn't really solve a customer problem. We have this great thing, but like, what do we do with it? No one is using it. Or there's no real connection to business goals, to the bottom line. Finally, it can't integrate in our legacy systems that we already run in our organizations, or it hits roadblocks with legal or compliance. Right? Any of these things happen quite often, one or more or all of them. But what if you didn't have to realize this thing at the end, but at the very beginning? And that's what we're talking about here. Imagine if you have a standardized way to collect these AI ideas so you can compare always apples to apples. Imagine you don't have to do all the thinking by yourself, reviewing all of the ideas, trying to understand them, because people are already submitting them. They already reframe, they put some thinking into it, they pressure test them before sending them over. So that you can only review ideas that meet a certain quality bar, right? Because all of the others are filtered out before they even reach decision makers. That would be the ideal. And this is why we created the AI problem framing canvas to have people submitting those ideas do a little bit of work. So ideas are no longer free form, half-baked phrases, but they're all framed in the same way, following the same structure. So then when you want to make a decision going to do with AI, you can compare ideas on the same dimensions. And we said, let's take a closer look at this canvas. I'm going to let Dana share her Miro board and take you through the AI problem framing canvas, all of the dimensions, using a very simple example.
As you can also see in this image, if you can leave it for one more second, John.
Yeah.
We have two ways of using this canvas. The printed one, which is an A3 paper. So if you're running in-person workshop, you could use that one. And we also have a Miro template, which I shared with you in the chat. What we have here, it's our template in the Miro board. And you can see even from the distance that it has 4 big stages or steps: the why, the what, the who, and the how. We thought that this is an easy way for everyone to grasp at the first glance what this canvas is about, because it involves changing lenses, right? When we talk about problems and framing problems, you need to change perspectives. And this is what we're trying to do. But an interesting part is that step 1 is the what. We're going to start with solutions. Step 2 is the why, meaning the business lens. Then we go into the human lens, who is the person who is actually going to benefit from the solution, and the how, the data and feasibility lens. So let's see how this would work in practice. We would start here with the AI solution. I know that you'll say, hey, this doesn't make sense. It's not intuitive enough, but we are thinking that we need to start where everyone is. And if you go in a company, in an organization, you'll see that most of the teams, most of the people already have the ideas, already have like pre-baked ideas and conceptions, and they just can't wait to put it on the table. So we should start from there. What is your AI idea? Try to put it in a sentence and try to make it as clear as possible so everyone can look at it and understand it. We are taking an example from a customer support center, and we have a team member thinking that, hey, my idea is to, what if we could automatically analyze incoming support tickets to suggest category, urgency, and best team for routing. Looks like a good idea, right? It's kind of hard to evaluate at first glance, but yeah, it sounds good enough. Another thing that we are doing now is when somebody comes up with an idea, is to have them think in what spectrum of automation it falls under. Is it AI assisted, AI augmented, or AI powered? When we talk about AI assisted, it means that AI supports a human task or a choice. A human stays in control, but AI offers suggestions, insights, or recommendations. But in the end, the responsibility and the accountability is reserved to the human. AI augmented means that AI changes how a task is done. So a human still oversees, but they do less of the manual work. And we also have AI powered, where AI does the job end to end. All decisions and all actions run automatically. A human steps in only if there are exceptions and they need to make a rough decision there. So we are also inviting the one coming up with idea to decide or to think of like where in the spectrum do they want to put their ideas. And for the sake of example, we're going to go with AI augmented this time. All right, so let's just say that I'm thinking that, okay, we can analyze incoming support tickets to suggest category and so on, and we want to make this AI augmented. Next, we will need to think about status quo. What is the current workaround? Because you need to first describe how things work today without AI, and only then imagine, okay, how this will change in the future. So following our example, you might see here support agents read tickets, interpret free text, set category and urgency, and route to a team. Or during peak volumes, triage quality varies between different agents. So this could be something that we see around where this idea might come and help the process. We don't have it here in this example, but usually when we ask people to describe the context, many times they are talking about unofficial rules and shortcuts that they use to make the process work. And those are key because if we're thinking to change a behavior, to change an experience, we need to be very aware about what those workarounds are. Because those workarounds are familiar, people get used to them, and they don't want to change. So we need to have that baseline because when we come up with something better, we need to know where it's starting from. Okay, so now we have a current workaround. We are ready to talk about what is the friction, what isn't working, where the drag is, and where do we see risk or loss of value, right? So here we can come up with problems like triage speed and quality vary based on the agent's experience. Urgent issues get flagged late, while simple requests soak up senior time. Duplicate tickets, multi-issue threads, and channel hopping, split context, and slow resolution. Yeah, that makes sense. Those could be the problems and the gaps and the needs that we are seeing. So it's good to write them down because this basically form your problem hypothesis. All this could be tested, validated. We can go and research around and see if this really happens, right? So we have now an idea, a solution, its context, and the problem that is going to solve. The next step is to go and change our lenses to the business lens, to the why. Now, this is critical because a problem is only a problem if it stands in the way of a goal. If you don't name the goal, then you're not solving anything, you're just exploring. So at this point, you need to tie your idea to a specific KPI, business goal, OKR, or however your company is organized. In our case, the business domain is simple, it's customer support operations, and a business goal that we might link it to is reduce average response time by X% and improve first contact resolution without increasing support headcount. That sounds pretty sound, and I'm sure that many companies have this type of goal. So for our idea, it kind of links because if we make something automatic, then for sure we're going to reduce the average response time, and we're definitely not going to hire more people because it will be run by AI, or this is how we see the link at the beginning. But what happens if you don't link it, if you don't find a goal that your idea helps achieve? Well, it's better to know that as soon as possible because in the end, if your leadership will not go with it, and if it's not part of their strategy and they are not using this as a priority, they will not implement your idea anyway. So the way we see this is more like maybe the timing is wrong. Your idea might be still great, but maybe not right now. So you have some choices. You can drop it all together, you can park it, or you can bring it back when priorities change and they make sense to your leaders. But in our happy path, it connects. So we are ready to move to the next lens, the human lens. And here we are talking about the people that are going to use this solution. We need to be able to name them because they are the ones who are going to use it every day. and it's going to affect the way they work, it's going to affect their role. So we need at least to be able to call them out and know who they are. In this case, it's going to be customer support agents and support teams and support team leads handling incoming tickets daily in a help desk tool. It makes sense. And the other part that we need to also consider is what is their problem and how do they describe it in their own words? How close is it to their own world? We could hear them say, I waste time just figuring out what this ticket is about, or the problem is vague and I'm not sure what the customer wants. I don't know what happened before this or how to reproduce it. Those are things that people from the support team might say, and you might hear them, or you know that because you've been part of different meetings where they complain about this, or pure observation. The idea with this
or doing customer interviews.
The idea with this block is twofold. On one side, we want you to build empathy with who you're going to serve and who you're going to help, and put yourself into their shoes, and also be able to produce a problem statement that you can later test, as John said, through research. You can validate research. Is this the current reality, or am I imagining it? So that's why this human lens is very important here, because we've seen many great ideas fail adoption just because they don't actually solve a real customer problem. And the last step, and how we need to think about this, is the how. And in this area, many ideas either stand up or fall apart, because the first block we're talking about is a very important one, is data feasibility. Here, you surface the actual data requirements behind your idea, not in abstract terms, but based on what you have today, what exists, how clean the data is, who can access it, how current it is, what's sensitive, how is it shaped. In our example, we might have past support tickets, categories, priorities, resolution times. It could be mixed, not very clean, because older tickets might be more noisy, the newer ones are cleaner. We have access because we're using our help desk system. Freshness, yes, we have new tickets all the time and they arrive in real time. Sensitive may include personal customer identifying information, so there is that risk. And the structure in which we get this data is mostly free text. So we have those elements in front of us and we are aware they exist. And of course, this is a very light version of what we are showing you in this example. And I'm sure that in complex products, things go much more deeper than that. But what this shows you are the constraints you need to work with. Those are obstacles that exist no matter how great your ideas is. So you need to work them, around them, figuring them out right from the start. Good, let's just say we're happy with what we know about data feasibility. We are ready to go to technical and integration reality, because now you have to deal with the system that your solution will have to live in. And this is where APIs, dependencies, platforms, and team capability come into play. Staying with a support example, you might have existing help desk APIs are available. Integration is required with a ticketing system. Team has limited machine learning experience, but strong backend capability. Initial implementation could be AI assisted rather than fully automated. There are some ideas here. Maybe the person submitting this AI solution doesn't know that much, but it also shows them how little or how much they know. So they can go and figure it out, go ask questions, talk with experts and find out, hey, am I right on this or am I completely off? And I simply realize I don't know much. And the last one is legal compliance and trust risk. This is something that everyone is trying to postpone and no one wants to start this conversation. But again, those are real obstacles that might kill your idea after it's being built, right before the implementation, and it's not going to be fun. Examples here, we might have a GDPR consideration due to customer data, the need for transparency, because agents must review the AI suggestions. They must see if it's hallucinating or is it on the right track. We might also have misclassification risk, not knowing what's urgent or sensitive from the point of view of the ticket, and because of that, easy mishandling could happen. So here you have it. As you can see, it's not super complete, it's not super detailed, and it's not perfect. It doesn't give you certainty, but it gives you something more valuable. It gives you the ability to be wrong early. If it doesn't connect with the business goal, if you're not able to name a real customer problem, if you have big obstacle when it comes to data, technical integration or legal, you can spot those things right from the start. And it also helps for the person submitting the idea and also the ones evaluating those ideas. So that was this in a nutshell. What you can also do is duplicate this frame and if you have multiple team members who want to submit ideas, name each frame with their name, and then you have like a big board with all kind of AI ideas that you can basically compare in parallel. All right, and to conclude this, I think, John, you can move to your presentation now.
Oh, we did take a closer look at this. Okay. All right. So you're doing this, right? You're doing the AI problem framing canvas. What changes for you? And I want to give you the answer to this question from two perspectives. As the person bringing the idea in front of your teams, in front of your leaders, you show that you understand trade-offs, you surface feasibility, risk, compliance, technical very early on, or at least you bring them up for discussions. And then most importantly, you connect your ideas to outcomes, not just features. And then when we talk about outcomes, it's both business outcomes by linking it to a business goal, but also customer outcomes by linking it to customer problems you're solving. So at that point, you're not being evaluated on like how enthusiastic you are about AI, right? And you start being evaluated on your judgment, and then being trusted with bigger, messier, more complex problems. And then as the leader making the call, the person having to decide what do we build with AI, well, it saves you a lot of time because ideas arrive framed in the same way. So you can compare apples to apples, as we said before. You can justify your reasons because they're all in the same format. You can explain why yes to this and why not to that. And also you would have criteria built into the canvas immediately. Hey, this one doesn't say anything about the customer problem. Here we have huge data issues. This one is not connecting to our business goal. So it's like very easy to justify. And also you do something that every leader should do. You build consistency across and you're scaling decision-making, but without slowing down progress at all. And why this matters for both groups? Because at junior level, like you're rewarded by having initiatives, ideas, being proactive, showing like, okay, initiative. At the senior level, you get appreciated for making good decisions, knowing when to say no, what not to build, that's very important, and protecting the time, the budgets, the reputation of your organization. But at the end of the day, when you show up with these sort of framed ideas or you deal with them, what you're demonstrating is decision quality. And the decision quality is important at both levels, both junior, let's say, and also most more senior levels as well. Now, what we have achieved with the AI problem framing canvas is just the start of things, right? We can visualize and you can collect lots of AI ideas across your organization in the same format. So you've improved your input quality because people have put some thought into what they wrote, obviously reduced to no's, and now you can compare all of these different ideas. But standardization alone doesn't mean that you've already made a decision. It just makes better decision possible, and that's what comes next. Like you still need to evaluate these ideas and make some AI bets and like this is what we're going to build. And that's and here's a point that we want to make. There's not a single person in an organization who can or should make these decisions. So there's not what we call an AI leader. No one makes these decisions. And good decisions are all about collective intelligence and also structured collaboration, because AI touches everything. It touches the business, obviously, the customer, data, IT, operations, like many legal and risk compliance, many different functions are involved in making an AI solution happen. And the thing is, everyone sees a different part of the problem, but no one sees the whole picture alone. That's why we're saying there can't be one person making the calls, but that it requires this collective intelligence and collaboration. But the problem is that this doesn't just happen, right? It has to be designed. Like, what are the goals? What are the rules that guide decisions? What are our desired outcomes? Who should be in the room? What role do they play? What they're accountable for? What are the tools we use to make these decisions and collaborate? Right. So this is the design you need to do, but that's not that's not enough. You also need to facilitate these conversations, because again, they will not happen naturally in any environment. And the way to do that for us, in the context of deciding which AI bets do we want to place, is the AI problem framing workshop, which is a repeatable way to design collective intelligence and collaboration for AI decisions. And I just want to give you a very quick overview of how this AI problem framing workshop works. So first of all, it is a workshop. It's 1 day, sometimes a little bit less, depending on the scope and how many challenges we're discussing. And it brings together the right mix of people. It should be cross-functional, as we're saying, people who can help you paint the full picture. 7 to 8 experts, AI, data, design, research, business, legal, plus one senior decision maker who can make that final call and say like, yes, we're going to build this. Basically bringing all of these people in a shared decision space where they're going to follow a structured framework, some activities to align, to decide and commit together by the end of this workshop on 1 to 3 high-value AI use cases that connect real user needs with the business goals. That's kind of like the high-level overview of this. So the team, as we were saying, needs to have a decider. This is that senior person who is accountable for decisions and for the rollout of the AI project, the one who can say, yes, we're going to put this on the roadmap. Then you have the core team, cross-functional, 6 to 8 people, subject matter experts from the business, but also technical experts as well. Because look, you can't have just your business folks and with ChatGPT build an AI product, just as you can't have just your IT people building something because they don't have the business perspective. So you need to have this right cross-functional mix. And then, of course, you need to have the AI facilitator who can be one of your internal coaches, a consultant, an agile lead, an innovation manager, someone who can guide the group through this process of discussing and making decisions. What they do mostly, they protect the quality of the decision in this workshop, the outcome. And then the stages of the workshop are very structured. We start with ideas, and then I mentioned earlier it's counterintuitive because we're talking here about problem framing, and we shouldn't be discussing about the solutions. But with AI, it's different because you have so many ideas out there. So what happens is we start by capturing all known ideas, wherever they come from: leadership, backlog, tech. Stuff ideas, half-baked ones. Now, ideally, we would want to have all of them in that AI problem framing canvas format. It's not always possible. In the workshop, we actually give people a little bit of time to restructure them. But then again, it depends on how much time you have at your disposal. The point of this is not necessarily prioritizing at this stage, but rather seeing everything that's on the table and creating this shared knowledge of like, this is all the ideas. And then we're starting to make decisions. And the first decision gate is the business. What we're doing here is we're listing the business goals that are relevant to the workshop, to the projects that we're discussing. And then for each of the business goals, the team identifies, okay, what are our needs, problems, gaps, barriers, things that are preventing us from reaching these business goals. And the final step is to take all of those AI ideas that we collected and try to map them to the business goals. And then if an idea doesn't clearly support a business goal, meaning it doesn't remove a problem or a barrier or a gap, it doesn't improve something, right? Then it is parked. And then this is the first decision gate. And it's very easy to prioritize here, because if an idea can't really explain why it matters to the business, then maybe it's not ready to move forward. Could be a timing issue, but it's one way to make the decision. The next decision gate are the customers. And in this phase, we shift the conversation from the business to people who are actually experiencing the problem. And here I want to make just a small note. When I say customer, it could be external customers, people who are buying our products or services, or it could be internal stakeholders, employees, if we're working, let's say, on improving the workflow, an internal workflow or process. So it could be either or. And here the goal is to build a shared understanding of who is the solution for and what the reality looks like. And at this stage, we're using tools like the MVS, Minimum Viable Segment, Proto-Persona, SPALT, so on and so forth. The idea is we want the team to build empathy with them and really understand them. You can't evaluate what matters before you understand who it matters for. That would summarize this slide. After we have the understanding of who is going to use our AI solutions, it's still not enough. We need to understand their context, because context matters a lot. And it's not just about the user, it's about the goals, it's about contracts, constraints, systems, trade-offs, all at once. Think about systems thinking at this stage. And I really like this thing. The problem only exists because of a goal. And then whether you reach or not that goal depends on your environment, on the terrain you're operating on. So that's what we're trying to understand here, right? We're trying to see the whole system as a whole. At this stage, what we're doing is a lot of mapping. So we either map customer journey maps, experience maps, process maps, service blueprints, whatever can visually show this entire system. And then once we have them, it's very easy to identify bottlenecks and frictions, things where AI can make a difference. And those moments of AI interventions were distinguishing between painkillers and vitamins. Painkillers being what removes a real friction or risk, and vitamins more like nice to have. Yes, it's going to improve the experience, but is this really critical? So we're coming up with more ideas at this stage, generated by looking at the system as a whole. And then the final stage of the workshop is making some decisions. We have a bunch of AI ideas that the team started with. We have other AI ideas and survived the business prioritization. We have some other ideas that emerged from looking at the customer and the context. Now we're putting them through these decisions lens. We have 4 of them. The money lens, right? What revenue can we have from this? The growth lens, the growth potential of that solution regarding adoption and so on. The data lens, do we have the right data? Do we have access to data? And then the pragmatic lens, which is about feasibility. Can we actually build it with our tech stack and capabilities? Right, so this is what we're trying to do here. We're prioritizing based on these lenses. And then finally, the ones that survived at this stage, this is what the team turns into what we call AI use cards. And the AI use cards capture in one place who is the customer, we'll call that the MVS, what the real problem of the customer is, what's the problem we're solving with the AI solution, what is the AI approach, it's like high-level AI approach, right? I'm not going to spell out the exact solution at this point, that comes later. What is the desired outcome, right? What will this AI solution enable the customer to do that they were not able to do before? And then what is the business goal that it supports? You can see the format here on the left-hand side of the screen. At this stage, we have the AI use cards, but there's still one thing I want to note, there's still hypotheses. Of course, we're looking at all of these dimensions, but these hypotheses need to be validated afterwards, right? Like once we build solutions, we prototype and test them before actually starting to build. So what the AI problem framing workshop is doing is creating conditions for better decisions. Now, the AI problem framing workshop is part of our AI facilitation framework, which is what helps teams get this clear path from AI ambition all the way to scaling solutions. This one is enabled and led by AI facilitators. We have 3 workshops here. The AI strategy workshop, this is mostly done with leadership, and the goal is to come up with high-level AI strategic opportunities. And then within those strategic areas with the AI problem framing workshop to discover AI use cases. And then with design sprint workshop, take those AI use cases and quickly come up with solutions, prototype, and test them before you start considering putting those solutions on the roadmap. So it's a lot about de-risking any sort of AI rollout before you move into implementation. And the beauty of it is that it doesn't require major transformation in how companies work. Because these are just workshops. And then if your team is already having meetings or they need to get together to decide something, you can just replace them with a more structured way of doing things. Now, hopefully you understand the system, how we're approaching it. And if you think it's interesting and something that you want to do, there's like 2 ways to move forward with this. Do it yourself. If you're already an experienced facilitator, you've run workshop, you know how to conduct these things, but you just need the formula and the tools. We have the AI problem framing facilitator stack. Or if you want to get more confidence, you want to experience this in real life as much as possible, then we have the AI facilitator training. And basically, just a very brief overview of them. The AI facilitator stack is what we use when we run these workshops. So there is a playbook. It's about 60 pages, I think, that explains the method in detail. There's also the workshop facilitation slides where like you have all of the activities and you can just run the group through them. Especially, you also get the minute-by-minute facilitator agenda telling to do, when to do, why to do it, and then all of the worksheets that participants will use during the workshop. So it's basically a workshop in a box kind of thing. You can just run your workshop with this. And then there is the AI facilitator training. It's a 3-day training that 1 day of problem framing, and then 2 days of design sprint training where you learn both of these methods. So basically you'll be able to guide teams all the way from defining AI use cases to prototyping and validating solutions with customers. We have sessions this year in Berlin almost every month, and then also one in New York, because the last 2 ones that we've done, we've had people flying from the US to us. So we said like, okay, we're going to come to you. So in March, we're going to be in the US as well. And there is a discount if you book any of these sessions before January 20th.